Welcome to Mana's Seal YouTube channel. The previous video link is on the description box or on the top right card. Volume 13, The Paladin of the Holy Kingdom. Neia dispelled the notion rising in her head. His Majesty is here to fight Jeldabaoth, so diminishing his chances of victory by having him waste mana on unrelated manners cannot be allowed. It will take me a while before I can once again cast the teleportation spell which I used on the orcs, but I can still cast the spell which I occasionally use to return to the Sorcerer Kingdom several more times. Taking a few dozen people with me would not be a problem, but I guess you can't decide who to send, and you won't. I am grateful for your understanding, Your Majesty. Perhaps it would have been a better idea to ask the Sorcerer King to take Prince Caspian and flee, but that move was of dubious merit. When a king from another nation was willing to commit himself to a fight in order to face a fearsome demon, having a member of one's own royal family shamelessly beg someone else to take them away from the battlefield was utterly disgraceful. Just as Neia was pondering this information, the Sorcerer King turned to face her for the first time since she had entered the room. The red points of light in his empty eye sockets looked straight at Neia. While they had once frightened her, Neia had grown used to them, and she had come to feel that they were quite attractive. "This is what I think, Miss Baraja. We have ended up in a confrontation with the enemy forces because of the stupidity of the Liberation Army's leadership. Such a situation cannot be changed by the efforts of a single square. How about focusing on your personal safety rather than the big picture? You do understand that my nation will accept your allegiance, if you are willing to give it. Given that you have been trained as a paladin, I am certain you will be able to fully exercise your talents in my country." Neia did not know how to answer, and she hesitated. While she was grateful that the Sorcerer King was concerned about her, she trembled in fear as she considered what she might lose if she accepted the Sorcerer King's proposal. The sacrifice which her parents had made. Her love for her hometown. She might never be able to return to the nation of her birth. She remembered several friends she had made. Many things circled in front of Neia's eyes, and they disappeared one after the other with a poof, but among them was something that refused to shatter, that remained to the end. In other words, the most important thing. She was a member of the Paladin Corps. While she did not yet know what justice was, it was the only thing Neia could say with her chest puffed out and her head held high. "As a citizen of the Holy Kingdom, I feel I am bound to save as many of the people as I am able. That is because saving the helpless, saving those in suffering is common sense." The Sorcerer King suddenly stopped moving, as though he had been frozen in place. The Sorcerer King murmured to himself, and then he stroked his chin. It would seem Neia's words had struck a chord with the Sorcerer King, because he studied Neia once more. It was just a throwaway remark, and Neia found herself fidgeting uncomfortably. "Am I correct to say that when the demi-humans attack, you will be posted to the walls near the western gate, on the left side of the city? It is a very dangerous place, and counting on me to save you will be a mistake, you know." "I know that very well." Neia was skilled in archery, and given that she had been assigned to the thick of the action, there was no doubt that she would be killed in action. However, she had steeled herself for death, since she would be going onto the battlefield. She drew her lips in, and Neia looked the Sorcerer King in the eye. "Ah, those are his eyes. I like those eyes." The Sorcerer King's self-directed mutterings made Neia blush. Well, the Sorcerer King probably did not mean anything else by his words. Hearing someone she respected say that he liked her made quite an impact. "In that case, I'll lend you several things, Miss Baraja. Please make good use of them." There was a whoosh as something huge suddenly appeared out of thin air. The same thought had crossed her mind when the Sorcerer King had produced a bow in the carriage, but magic truly was a surprising thing. Neia had seen the magic item, the suit of armor which had sprung forth from nothing. It was a suit of armor which looked like a green carapace, which the late Grand King Busser had worn. This armor ought to be useful, by which I mean it will ensure your safety." The armor was too large for Neia, and its dimensions would be quite sizable for just about any human being. However, given what Neia knew about enchanted armor, it would not be an issue if she tried it on. Ordinary armor would need to be altered by a blacksmith in order to suit its wearer's frame. However, there was a limit to how far such alterations could go. Such a large suit of armor simply could not be resized enough to fit. However, it was different for magical armor. Anyone could wear it regardless of gender or race, provided there were no special restrictions on its use. While the changes would not be too drastic, the armor would automatically adjust its shape to fit its wearer. One could even have a giant wear a suit of armor no bigger than his own thumb, but the durability of magic armor varied with the materials it was made with and their quality. A ring-sized suit of armor would be easily damaged if it was subjected to spells, acids, or equipment sundering attacks, and that would greatly reduce the potency of the enchantments upon it. There was no such thing as a free lunch, and so-called shortcuts often did not work out. Even so, Busser's armor was probably quite tough, given that it was this size even without anyone wearing it. In addition, I will lend you 3 more things. The Sorcerer King personally handed those items to Neia. A circlet, gauntlets, and a necklace. Are any of them redundant with your personal gear? No, not at all. I did not have any magic items to begin with. Excellent. Now, I will briefly explain how to use these items. As the name implied, the circlet of iron will defended the mind against charm, fear, and other such mental attacks. Still, while the circlet rendered one immune to magical attacks, it could only strengthen the wearer's resistance against attacks derived from special abilities. Another thing she had to note was that the circlet would also negate positive magical effects. The gauntlets were gauntlets of archery. Out of all the spells in the world, there were some which could only be used if their caster possessed shooting skills, which was why the Sorcerer King had made that item. However, the Sorcerer King had abandoned those spells after making that item, and so the gauntlets were useless to him. They had languished in storage until now. Finally, the necklace was an item that consumed mana to cast the third-tier divine spell Heavy Recover. While one could use it indefinitely as long as one possessed sufficient mana, it consumed more magical power than casting it directly. Given Neia's meager reserves of mana, it was best for her to consider it a one-use item. Therefore, she would have to think carefully about when to best use it. This item had not been made by the Sorcerer King or his peers, he had simply been taken with its appearance, and had purchased it from somewhere. Indeed, a closer look revealed that the necklace was of very fine workmanship. It looked like a goddess holding up an emerald. Indeed, it was a very attractive work of art. Neia looked at these valuable items, and then shook her head in refusal. I'm very sorry, Your Majesty, but I cannot accept these items. The magic items that the Sorcerer King offered were most definitely top-notch gear. However, what would happen if Neia died while wearing them? These items would fall into the hands of the demi-humans, and they would end up strengthening the demi-humans instead. Even if they did not fall into the hands of the demi-humans, what would happen if her corpse went missing during the chaos of battle, and her equipment vanished with her? More to the point, Neia already had the bow which the Sorcerer King had bestowed upon her, so how could she be discontent with that, and borrow more things from him? Speaking of which, she ought to return that bow to the Sorcerer King before going to battle. Why is that? These items will be useful to you in the fighting to come, will it not? After all, you are a warrior type, and you lack mana, so you might not even be able to use that necklace's ability. Why don't you take it and give it a try? Neia confessed her uneasiness in response to the Sorcerer King's question. The Sorcerer King heard her words and simply smiled. How about this? Go onto the battlefield with the determination to bring these items back to me, no matter the cost. Neia had been resolved to do just that all along, but resolve alone could not break through her uneasiness. After hearing her answer, the Sorcerer King waved his hand in a magnanimous fashion. Oh, just take them. I have spells that can locate magic items. I can find them even if they're lost. Is that so? Yes, it is, all right, no need to stand on ceremony. Make use of them. If the Sorcerer King could make facial expressions, he would have probably been smiling. Those thoughts ran through Neia's mind as she heard his kind words. Now that he had offered them with such sincerity, rejecting them would be an act of rudeness. The notion of accepting his goodwill warred with the desire to apologize for incurring a loss to the Sorcerer Kingdom. Those thoughts swirled in Neia's mind. Well, can you not make me a promise? A promise to return them all to me afterwards. Come back alive. That was the meaning behind those words, and they moistened the corners of her eyes with tears. Only her parents had ever treated her with such kindness before. The Sorcerer Kingdom is blessed to have such a merciful sovereign. As Neia thought that, she bit her lip and lowered her head. Thank you very much. I swear I will return them. She lifted her head, and wiped away the tears. She could not put the armor on here after all. However, putting on the gauntlets, necklace, and circlet should not be an issue. She began by fastening the necklace around her neck. In the moment that she put it on, she immediately understood the abilities of the magic item and how to use them. It was as though the item was a part of her, and making use of it was as natural and effortless as using her own limbs. Next was the circlet. However, she did not feel anything special when she put it on. Still, according to the previous explanation, she would probably understand when the time came. The last item was the gauntlets. Unlike the others, she could clearly feel the difference. Power coursed through her. It felt very much like the time she had strengthening magic cast upon her. Her muscles felt like they had suddenly doubled, and her movements were both swifter and more precise. In addition, she could make out tiny details, and even her cardiovascular fitness had improved. She felt full of stamina. It was as though every aspect of her physical abilities had improved. This is amazing. Strength gained through training accumulated slowly, so it was hard to perceive. However, she could clearly feel the intense augmentation of her physical capabilities. More surprising was the fact that she did not feel any awkwardness in controlling her body, given the differences between her previous and present self. Magic really is amazing. The Sorcerer King shrugged as he heard Neia react in awe. That's true. In fact, I've been quite surprised by utility spells myself. By that, do you mean spells which can create sugar and pepper and ice? Then there are spells which can even create ores, though they're not very mana efficient. Some cities also depend on utility spells to supplement their water supply. It would seem utility spells are closely linked to the development of this world's culture. Is that so? Why would a great magic caster like the Sorcerer King be surprised by such trivial spells? Still, it must make sense, given that the Sorcerer King had said it. And indeed, utility spells had come to be of great use in many places. Daily life might not have been possible without such magic. Also, there are those sowers which use slimes, or rather, coexist with them. I'm straying from the point. Miss Baraja, pay me no heed and return to your work. In truth, there was no task more important than keeping the Sorcerer King company. However, it was also true that they lacked manpower, and Neia had a surprising number of things to do. While set tasks were largely related to standing guard, which anyone could do, they were still very important. Thank you very much, Your Majesty. I promise that I will return alive. If things get really bad, then flee to the east. In all likelihood, that's the only place where you might have a chance to survive. Neia picked up Busser's armor and bowed before leaving the room.